Today we begin the sad part of the moving vlog, and that is saying goodbye to the previous setups. This is December 12th, I believe, at this point. I had already begun tearing out a lot of the desk setup. We kind of reached a point with the moving vlogs where I was filming a lot up to a certain point, and then when it was just us on our own and we didn't really have, extra free hands to do anything, we kind of just had to go. We were running out of time. We were supposed to be out by the end of December, and this all took way longer than expected just because we had no clue what we were doing. And so we ended up just having to go and start moving out. So a lot of the stuff here has already been gutted. I did want to film a little bit of the process of tearing down the desk and stuff. My original goal was to clean everything up and do a formal desk tour of how everything was before. And same thing with the retro room, just to say goodbye. I got to do it with the retro room, but the desk setup didn't make the cut. We just kind of had to pack it and go, especially because we also reached a point in taking so long where my original scheduled break, which was to get me to about this point, the first week or so of December before I needed to make videos again, had already come, and I needed my computer and at least a monitor and everything set up at a temporary setup at the house where we were now staying in order to actually start doing work again, because work doesn't stop when you're a YouTuber. I had like 6 or so videos scheduled out in advance, and that's about all I got out of it, and then I started having to make more, even if they were lower quality as we ended the year. I still had to get something out. And so the desk setup went a little bit slower than we ended up doing for the rest of it, because I thought we'd have more time to kind of meticulously organize every cable, every power brick, but eventually we reached a point where we just kind of had to tear everything down and box it up and hope we figured it out once we got it to the next place. And so I'm going through and unplugging all the lights, all the cables I had left behind from originally taking down my monitors, and just getting everything kind of pulled off of here and ready to go. Then we moved on to the retro room, which involved a lot because this was where I was shooting all of my videos by this point. As you know, if you've watched the channel, by mid-2020, after having the baby, the living room where the office was a complete disaster from all the baby stuff, so I just moved to shooting everything in the retro room, so it was left until the last possible second so I could continue shooting videos for me to even edit at the house after I'd already moved my computer. And so everything was still set up here, and this is the most densely packed room we had in the entire apartment because it's where I had everything. And so we had to unplug all the game consoles, make sure there were no discs in them, and then unplug the computer stuff, get everything pulled out. On top of the closet was loaded with tapes and games and controllers and clothes, and I had all the stuff on the walls, all the stuff on the shelves. So this was essentially day one of working on this, and then we eventually just kind of had to start moving some stuff at that point. So this week we're actually finishing installing the AC unit, but this was the first time we've moved anything in here, and suddenly all my free space is gone. And so I need to move some stuff around and clear up some space so we can finish installing the register covers, the vent covers, and then finish actually setting and installing the heating and air unit over here. And in case, because I haven't gotten to shoot a whole lot of actual like talking portions for this move, we are installing a 4-ton HVAC unit, heating and air. We're only installing the furnace part right now, and then we'll set up the compressor and stuff in the spring for the air conditioner, because you can't really install that when it's freezing. And so it's essentially a unit that's built for an entire house, but it's going to be cooling just this garage. So it's going to be a little noisy. We're going to have to figure that out and work around it, turn it off when I'm recording, whatever. But it will help overcompensate for any insulation issues in this space. But we have been moving for over a month now, but this weekend was the first weekend where we really started moving stuff. So we moved everything we needed to live here. We've been living here for 3 days now, and we moved everything that we needed my dad's truck and trailer for
into this space. And so it is a disaster, and I need to set it up to clean. Well, to organize and clear out some space. And there's that backwards fall that's gonna get him in trouble.
Yep. Yeah, you're just showing off.
Super quick behind the scenes update here on the status of the garage. We are still waiting to install the HVAC unit for heat to drop out the old one, which we have here. I believe we're doing today. But I have built 2 of the storage shelves that were in closets and stuff like that at the old place to hold stuff. I need to get brackets for that one from the apartment. Server rack's here, but it'll be going over there once this whole unit is set up. But the exciting part is I have gone ahead and built my desk for the most part. I'm missing a couple screws. We got the desk, so that's gonna be the desk area. And once we can get more wood and stuff, I want to expand that towards the trim for more test bench scenarios. We have my workbench, which can stay an actual workbench now and not a test bench. And then we have what will be the retro room area. Now, none of this is final. I'm just kind of test fitting things and getting them out of the floor space, but this is gonna be the general area. I'm gonna have a TV wall here, maybe PS1 sign here, if not here, maybe. I can't put it there because that's a big patch spot that I can't really mount into, but this is generally kind of the layout going here. Those are all the pieces for the TV stand that the BVM goes on, which I'm thinking will either go this way or this way to then view the rest of that area. But it's coming together. I am so excited.
Of course, we just barely got moved in and set up in time to set up the Christmas tree right before Christmas. So of course we had to decorate it. We had to feel like we had some sense of normalcy for this holiday when literally everything else is working against it. Heat's installed and ready to go. So the process of moving things into the garage, both from the apartment and from inside the house, because a lot of it went into the house before we had everything ready to move it into the garage, just involved kind of dumping things everywhere that we could, which meant it wasn't a very functional space. And if I was ever going to make progress getting anything set up, I needed to, have things where they needed to go. So a lot of my nights through the last week or so of December here was spent figuring out where everything was supposed to go functionally, like the shelves, the server rack, things like that, building more of the shelves that we pulled out of the closets out of both the baby's bedroom, which used to be my studio and storage room, as well as the retro room and things like that, and getting things up off the floor and kind of in a place that they might actually go in for the final build as quickly as possible, even if it punished me a little bit later. And so I'm building the shelves here and just getting as much random little things up off the ground as I could. I appear to have lost a little bit of my footage of the mountains of crap that was in the place before, I had all these shelves put up, but it was a disaster. So here I've completely got everything on the shelves as much as possible and generally kind of built the layout that I was hoping for. So you see, I already have my desk built in the far right corner. I was kind of aiming to be able to use it sooner rather than later, and that didn't necessarily work out. I've got the server rack where it was originally supposed to go, which is right next to the HVAC unit, because the theory was that I would put the back up to it and then the air return would pull additional air across through the server rack to help cool all of my servers. However, workflow wise and just functionally, it didn't really work out there, both because of where we were going to do the network runs as well as power and things like that. So it's not where it stays, but for now, that's where I ended up putting it. And just generally, I'm putting computer desktops under my desk. I'm putting anything that goes in the retro room kind of in that corner, trying to unload as many boxes and bags as I could to not only get them out of there, but also take them back to the house, because we needed more stuff to, keep moving.
The problem with moving in waves is that every time I clean up and organize this stuff so I can move more things in, I fill it up and run out of space. And it starts to feel like I don't have any room for anything anymore. Because there's things everywhere. And it's time to fix this, so that we can move even more stuff in. Cool. Well, I guess today I say goodbye to the would-be dining room attached to our living room here that used to be our office with our desks and our shelves and our monitors, other desk. It's all gone. As is, well, pretty much everything else, because this is the entirety of what was our living room. We're getting rid of the couch, so it's here for now. Living room was here. That was basically the garage with the server rack and the workbench. And then all of this became baby room at the same time, and then the office over here. And it's all gone. All right, well, it is December 31st, and we are officially saying goodbye to our final apartment for the final time. We have cleaned it, we have done what we can for the place, given it our do goodbyes for how well the place treated us for our final years of pre-parenting. And we're headed out the door. So this was the room that was my first studio before the retro room in this apartment. I usually shot my videos kind of at this angle. I had a big metal shelf over there with, all my stuff on it. My B-roll table was here. And then it quickly became the baby room once we had a baby this year. And so it became my storage room. And you didn't really see much of it other than a couple B-roll shots and a shot from another video. And then over here, this was the retro room. Yes, I did have a window in the retro room. Some people were surprised. This whole room right here, this was the retro room. This was the place. This was more or less the angle you saw with my big neon sign in the middle of that wall over there. Game shelves, square shelves, all of that. It's all empty, it's all gone. It's pretty surreal to see, honestly. It's been pretty emotional. We are literally in a hurry. The office closes in a few minutes, so I can't really spend a whole lot of time saying goodbye, but this is it, guys. This is it. Hey guys, I finally cleaned my room. Actually, my wife did most of it. This is saying goodbye to our everything room, I guess. Our living room, dining room, garage, office, studio, baby room. It did everything. This is the final on video part that got cleaned up. And it's over. No more desks, no more crazy shelves, no more workbench, server rack. Just an empty room ready for someone else to see the potential that we saw. That's it. Well, so long, first apartment. Served me pretty well for a couple years here. Time to say goodbye, start a new chapter. End of an era. Other obligatory sentimental statements.
This episode of the Moving Vlog is brought to you by our Discord server. Over at discord.gg/EposVox, you can get help with your stream, you can chat with me and our wonderful community of tech enthusiasts, gaming enthusiasts, retro nerds, all sorts of things. Learn the latest tech and gaming news, including niche retro stuff, streaming stuff, hardware stuff. We give away games, we give away assets for your streams, we let you feature your stream if you're in the right conditions, and we have things like our awesome Discord game night that we just had this past Saturday for Halo 3. We do a lot of different games, have a lot of fun with that. That's a monthly thing. We may pick up the pace a little later. We got a lot of stuff coming, including, if you make it into one of the secret groups, you already saw one of the major releases we're doing for this year. So head on over to discord.gg/EposVox and chat with us. We'd love to see you there.
Well, today is the day. It is January 1st, 2021. It's a new year, just before the end of 2020. On literally the last day, we got finished with the apartment. We completely emptied it out, got it cleaned up, and turned in the keys so that as of 2021, we are no longer living in 2 different places and having our stuff in 2 different places. But that means that everything is even more of a disaster than it has already been, because we've been so busy working on everything, we haven't had time to put stuff away. And I've previously shown my efforts to condense and put away things as we moved it, but as we had this last wave of stuff brought over, it got even more full than it's ever been before, and it's very overwhelming. So today is the day. Today I start working on the new studio to really turn it into something else. So I have 2 main objectives. Objective number 1 is to just dig myself out of this hellhole, to actually get me a path to get to where I need to do the work I need to do to get stuff set up. Objective number 2 is to start building certain setups, like the desk, getting my monitor mounts on the desk, getting monitors set up, things like that, because those are little things that take up a lot of space that could get up off the floor and make my life a whole lot easier when it comes to cleaning up everything else for the move. So I am excited. Hopefully we get a lot done today, because it's going to be wild.
Now here you actually get to have a peek at how I'm building out my desk. This is an L desk built out of big old pieces of MDF and then 2x6s as the legs. And I'm just kind of getting them into place and screwed together, trying to get them positioned and up against the little 3 inches of footer board that sticks out from the walls. This is actually advantageous, as it gives me room to mount my monitor mounts and things like that without scratching up the wall quite as much as I did at the apartment. So I've got a dual monitor mount for my main setup, which is from Vivo, supports my big 27-inch 4K monitors, and then I'm going to have some monitors on the other end. But before I really can get to any more of my desk stuff, we got to put away some other stuff. The goal here is to have my main editing desk over on the left on what is currently the blue part, just how I had it set up at the previous apartment office. But then over on that right L part, I'm actually setting up a bunch of different monitors for benchmarking rigs, test streaming rigs. I've got a few budget streaming rigs I'm going to work on now and things like that. So I'm pretty stoked to have the extra desk space for all of the different computers that I'm going to test and all of that. I'm sure hooking up all of the capture stuff will be a nightmare, but that's fine. Now the goal I have at this point as well is to keep the test bench that I actually have, the wet bench or whatever, set up so I can always easily access hardware, but it takes up so much table space, I don't know how realistic that is. You also get to see a peek at me working on my server. I have a 25U, I believe, NetApp fully enclosed server rack that I picked up for $50 up in Indianapolis from a government surplus sale back in 2017, I believe. I had a whole little mini series. It was like 2 videos about it. And in this, I'm setting up my new servers. So I've got my old dual Xeon server that I set up in a video series in 2016 for rendering videos and stuff. It's currently sitting in here. I don't know that it's worth even powering on at this point. It's outperformed by a single 6900K and way more by other stuff that's much more power efficient at this point, but it could be useful for something and I don't have anywhere else to put it, so it's weighing the server down. And then I have my Android server that's going on top of it. And I'm experimenting with new cage nuts, the new plastic ones that everyone's recommending, as well as some front panel kind of pass-through keystone stuff. I don't know if I'm going to stick with it, but I'm at least experimenting with it here. I pulled out the old terminal that actually came with the server when I bought it. It's a super old, like 800 by 600 VGA display and PS2 keyboard setup. It doesn't work with anything that I'm connecting to it, so not a big deal. I am installing my Unraid server, which I've been working on for like 2 years now, and will hopefully talk about soon. And then putting a shelf over top of that so I can start stacking in my Synology NAS boxes, which are not rack mounted, but I need to keep in here regardless. This will be a giant multi-switch based 10 gigabit networking scenario, and then all of my networking for the rest of the garage studio will run out of here as well.
Alright, so at this point it is January 2nd, I believe, but it's past midnight, so January 3rd, and I've spent a little bit of time here on the storage. Originally I had the shelves coming out this way and then the server rack over here, and my idea was that the air return for the HVAC unit would actually pull through the back of the server rack to aid with cooling a little bit, but I didn't like how all of that looked, and so I actually have the shelves surprisingly fit flat back up against the garage door here. Although I have enough room that the garage door should still open, and I should be able to hang my sound blankets behind them, which will prevent it from opening, but that's not the point, to help reduce some of the reverb off of the door. Now, originally I thought we would have to insulate the garage door, but it is built with insulation inside of it. And so while it's cool to the touch, even though it's below freezing outside, it is not cold, and it's not condensating or anything like that, and there's no cold air coming through. It is fairly well insulated. The only problem is that it has been raining a whole heck of a lot, and when rain blows against the door, it does kind of leak in a little bit, just a tiny bit, and that's only from blowing against the door. And so like the tiny bit of the edge of the floor is a little wet. So we will need a new seal on the bottom of the garage door, and we're gonna trench it out so that ideally everything, well, we don't have a drainage problem now, but to prevent there from being a drainage problem in the future. But I needed to clear off a lot more space, so I needed to redo my storage a little bit, and this is looking a lot better. And then we have the server rack in this corner here because I need access to those outlets. Ideally, I'll eventually upgrade to a big 220 volt UPS if I need one at some point. However, we may need that line for the air compressor for the air conditioning unit, so I may just be stuck with this outlet down here. But that way we have a direct run here, and then this will be general, although organized better at some point, light stand and tripod storage and stuff like that. So things are starting to shape up, but this has allowed me to finally clear quite a bit of walking space here out of the area, so I can really start building stuff. At this point, I kind of have what looks like the start of a desk going here, just a general idea of what's going on. The plan so far is to have my main desk kind of how it was at the apartment, my dual monitors, using that mixer in combination with the Go XLR maybe, and then my PC probably still under there. It's super heavy, but it's on wheels, so it'll go under there. And then ideally here, we're doing test benches and all of my little new budget streaming rigs I was gonna use for videos running here, along with the new M1 Mac Mini. So I'm gonna have my big ultra wide monitor here, and then dual monitors here, probably the 4K and a 1440p 144 hertz. So I have all the test cases for my streaming rigs and things like that for videos, and that'll look really cool, and it will be super functional. I think I'm getting the level 1 Tex KVM, so we'll probably run with that. And then the goal here is actually to extend this part of the desk out to basically the transition. I'm gonna have some TVs on the wall there, so out to that point to give me another little desk chunk for CRT gaming. I still have CRTs kind of floating around, like that one, the SGI one on the floor, and then my Big Impressions one is here on the retro TV stand, but that's not where that can go. And so my goal is to actually have 2 retro PC gaming workstations there, computer setups. One with like a Windows 98 rig and one with like my Windows XP rig or something like that. So then I have a gradient from like retro gaming, retro computing to computing and workbench. And so I think that will be pretty sick once we get there, but I need a whole new desktop and legs for that chunk. And then I need new legs to build me a desk in the house as well. We have the top, but not the legs. So if I go out to ultra wide mode here, we are definitely making progress, but it is nowhere near the point of actually recording videos in here. We still don't have internet routed out here. We have to completely trench out a line, you know, at least 18 inches under or 24 or whatever under the ground, in conduit and everything from the house to here. And I'm doing it all in Cat 6a, so it should be 10 gig support once I get there, but gigabit for my gigabit internet otherwise. And then I'm gonna have to do my own runs. I'm doing network boxes, or 4 port outlets on each of the walls. I'm doing like 2 per wall, so I have 10 gig run throughout the whole thing, which means I have a lot of cable runs to run coming out of the server rack. And then I've done a lot of work on the server rack, but I'll talk about it later. So we are making progress for sure. But keep in mind, this is all just condensing what was already here. We still have that previous mountain of stuff I was talking about in the house that I have to move out here. So that will be something.